Some breaking news in our national lead where Hurricane Laura is rapidly intensifying at this hour. The latest warning described unsurvivable.
Now, Delta made landfall in the same area hit by Laura, and the people there are still trying to get back on their feet.
In the summer of 2020, Lake Charles was a growing area despite a worldwide pandemic. That would all change on August 27th, when Hurricane Laura kicked off a series of storms that changed the town forever. Over the next 3 shows, we will examine those stories as we begin with Laura's approach and getting ready for the storm.
We made the decision to stay pretty early. As soon as there was a hurricane in the Gulf, we talked about it and we just decided, all our individual families, me, my brother, my dad, we all kind of individually decided we're not going to leave this time.
I evacuated to Biloxi, Mississippi, to the Golden Nugget, and was actually watching cameras at my house as the storm hit.
The hurricane's on the way. There's an order to evacuate. Most people chose to do that. Not everybody did, and you two decided you're not going to evacuate, right? So why did you make the decision to not evacuate?
We didn't make that decision.
Oh.
An 85-year-old man made the decision that we're going to stay because we got too many horses in that barn to take care of.
And who is this 85-year-old man that said you're not leaving the horses?
My father.
So for me, I wound up going east over to our office in Slidell. A few of our management actually stayed downtown at the emergency management building, which was built to withstand that, and they were higher up, so the water wasn't a real concern. And then we had others that went over towards Houston. Some went north. It was basically kind of just scatter drill, but it was organized enough that we all knew where we were. But at that point, it was just kind of get out of Dodge, just get out of the way.
Well, I stayed in a building, our education building, Farrah Hall, which is about an 80,000 square foot building. And I stayed with our police chief and the police force because we knew that coming out of the storm, we'd have to secure the campus, but also our facilities and planning director, our director of student services, who the police force is under, all stayed.
I was in New Orleans. I left at the last moment. I was going to stay until it became a Category 4, and to be honest with you, Category 5 is what I really think. But I left literally at the last moment, and my family and I went to New Orleans.
So we stayed, we kind of prepped, we had water, we had food. I'd shopped probably a week prior to that, knowing there was something, it was happening. Then, well, we pretty much just kind of buckled down the night before. A long pre-day, it was more of watching this thing grow. Newscasts came out, people were getting a little bit more nervous. Still, I felt safe, secure that my house was going to be okay. It's not going to be as bad. You know, I went through Rita. It's like, you know, this is going to be okay.
So, of course, it hit in the middle of the night. I was in Lafayette, Louisiana. Just left our Stein store in Lake Charles in the afternoon. I think we got out of there around 3 or 4 o'clock. Actually, no, it was about 5 or 6 o'clock, racing down the interstate to get to Lafayette because it was starting to, you know, the wind, the rain, you could really start to feel it.
So originally I wasn't going to leave. You know, my dad and I decided to stay there and kind of hunker down, and we had some neighbors in our neighborhood that, you know, were some tough people, just the dads that would stay back, and so we thought, you know, we're fine, we'll stay back with them. And one by one they kept going, and finally we were like, okay, everybody's leaving, we got to get out of here, like it's going to be way too dangerous. So my dad and I drove to Houston, so we want to stay somewhere kind of close. That way, right whenever it's good to come back, we can come back and just help out as much as we can.
So I left about 7 o'clock the night the storm hit to drive to my brother's 50 miles away in Elton, Louisiana.
Is that far enough away?
It was not far enough away. He lives on a farm, family farm, and we sat up all night and watched the wind blow out of his windows that overlooked the farm.
My brother-in-law and sister-in-law live next door to us, my wife and I, and they live in a much nicer, much more modern home than ours. And I decided the rest of the families had evacuated out. I still had our dog, so I headed over and we hunkered down in their brand new home, which I thought at that point was going to be a pretty intelligent move on my part. Our house is 40 years old, wooden structure on piers, And I thought it might not be the safest place to be during a hurricane, especially with the volume of wind that was supposed to come through.
Even the day before the hurricane, I was planning on staying here. I live, in Lake Charles, and I think the day before it popped up to 4 or 5. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to Lafayette, stay at my parents' house, and then come back. So I went to Lafayette, stayed at my parents' house overnight, and came back the next day, checked out the house and the restaurants, and it was just glad I went to my parents' house that night.
I had a secure place in downtown Lake Charles, and my family evacuated, and I was able to weather the storm at a location in downtown Lake Charles.
In the week or so leading up to the storm, we saw it was coming. Maybe it was going to hit, maybe it wasn't. Oh, it looks like it's going to go away. Well, it looks like it's turning back. Category 2, maybe Category 2, Category 4. What are you doing to prepare for this inconsistent information you kept getting?
The Calcasieu Parish Police Jury has what's called an executive policy group, executive policy committee, and that consists of all the mayors from Calcasieu Parish, the parish president, the sheriff, and typically the school board will sit in on those meetings as well. Last year, we were actually active often because of COVID, and for very different reasons. That group typically only gets together during natural disasters or weather-related events. So when it looked like Laura was going to be something, this group got together and we started to receive updates several days out from the National Weather Service. I can't state enough how important and how life-saving the meteorologists for our National Weather Service were. Their counsel, their advice was spot on. I literally believe they saved lives, because you could tell with every passing day and sometimes 2 meetings a day, their rhetoric, their warnings would become more and more serious. And they, for the right reasons, have to be very cautious, because to issue a evacuation is a big deal. To issue an evacuation without needing to is also a big deal. So you want to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons when you need to do it. But I remember the moment when we as a group decided to issue the evacuation order, every one of us hearing the council and the forecast from those meteorologists knew it was the right thing to do and it needed to be done at that moment. And I'm glad we did it, and we got everyone out of this community who was willing to leave.
When you depend on the weather for your livelihood, one bad season can knock you off your feet. At Sunshine Quality Solutions, we understand that living in Louisiana can mean unprecedented natural disasters. And this hurricane season is no different. Whether you own a John Deere 9X, a 1023E, or even something really small, hurricanes affect us all the same. In these trying times, we hope you stay safe and know that you're not alone.
I couldn't thank the Brazier Law Firm enough for what they've done for me and my family. It took all the stress of dealing with this off of my shoulders.
I'm living in a travel trailer in my driveway, and I'm thinking if it wasn't for the Brazier Law Firm, this might be my house for the rest of my life.
They will work for you, they will fight for you, and they really take pride in their work and what they do in making sure that their client is the #1 priority.
Do you have a brick home? Did you know that major storms can shift brick and cause unseen structural damage to your home? The easiest way to find out if this has happened to your home is to simply push on your brick and see if it moves. And if it does, call us immediately. Time is running out to file your brick claim on your home. Visit www.brickclaims.com or call us at 337-496-5131 today.
At Kenny Fuselier and Company, we sell the tough stuff: hardwoods, tile, vinyl, carpet, and stone. Floors that can withstand years of kids, pets, accidents, spills. And we're much more than just durable flooring. We can complete your look with wallpaper, custom window blinds, shutters, and awnings. With thousands of choices, professional installers, and over 35 years of experience, at Kenny Fuselier, you can walk, tap, and even rollerblade on our reputation.
Eco Roof and Solar is Louisiana's trusted roofing leader specializing in storm restoration for commercial and residential projects, working closely with your insurance company to negotiate and fully restore your home or business. With an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, Eco Roof and Solar is Louisiana strong. Call 337-221-4113 to schedule your complimentary inspection. That's 337-221-4113 or visit us at ecoroofinsolar.com.
About a day before, we all decided we're going to go camp out at Toyota, and we moved here. We brought generators, we bought food, we brought blankets, we brought a tent for my kid to stay in, and we just made it as much like home as we could. And we ended up with all our stuff. We ended up here by I think 3 or 4 o'clock the day of the storm, and it was already raining, but it wasn't that bad. And so we ended up with 31 people here. Our family, my family, my brother, my dad, some dealership employee families, and some close friends and their families. And so we ended up with 31 people, including at least 4 or 5, I think 5 toddlers and 2 or 3 teenagers, and then an additional 9 animals. We had a bunch of cats and dogs living with us too. So we had quite a contingent.
So you're here, it's raining, you're still hopeful that the storm may pass, or the prediction may be wrong, or it may take a turn, or it may. And so you're kind of watching, and so talk us through that.
Yeah, we knew it was bad enough that we needed to be prepared. So we got our generators, and we got flashlights and batteries and food and all that, and made sure that we were prepared to ride it out for a few days in case it got bad. But we didn't really think that it was going to be that bad, because it escalated pretty quickly, and also the course focused in on us pretty quickly later into the night. So we got all these families here, and we really focused on. We knew we were prepared. We had a retired law enforcement officer with us. We had plenty of guns. We had plenty of food. We were ready for a zombie apocalypse. We weren't worried about our safety. We were primarily trying to make sure and just take care of everybody's mental health, make sure everybody was comfortable and well fed and happy and able to kind of relax. So from about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon till 10 o'clock that night, we just were focusing on hospitality, trying to make sure everybody was comfortable and relaxed. And then by then we could tell that it was going to get bad. I mean, by then it was pretty clear. Storm was focusing down on us pretty hard, and as the night went on, it just got progressively worse and worse, and we knew it was serious. So by 9 or 10 o'clock that night, we had assigned bedrooms for everybody in the center core of the building and set up beds, and we assigned a night watch for 2 hours at a time to all the family heads, so that we'd always have somebody awake and keeping an eye on what was going on. Ended up, most of us stayed up almost the whole time anyway. Very little sleeping happened, but the kids did sleep through a lot of it.
So we're not going to evacuate, so I'm sure you found a very, very secure place to set out the entire hurricane. And that was where?
In a garage in a Chevy Silverado. I didn't think anything was secure once the storm was on top of us.
I really didn't either, because I was in this small truck.
He was in a Ford Ranger.
Yeah, next to him, and looking at him. It's okay. It was funny.
You were in separate cars in the same garage?
Yeah.
How many cars would this garage hold?
Two. But we turned the vehicles around and we backed them in the garage.
Yeah.
We cut the headlights on every now and then. We'd see a Shetland pony fly by.
Yeah, it was amazing. And boards.
And tins.
Pieces of boards. Ooh, there you go.
We watched a 12 by 16 shed roll over 3 satsuma trees, and the satsuma trees were about 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
We heard noises I don't want to hear again. I'll get on the plane, on the wing of a plane, and flop my feet to help to get the plane off the ground, because I'm not riding another one out.
Yeah, but Robert, when you say that, not riding nothing out, Papa and I still make the decision. We got to talk to them first.
I'm going to make the next decision.
Okay.
Okay. Deal.
And I think it kind of got about the worst around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And we could hear at that point, we couldn't see anything else because it was just black everywhere. But we could hear that that the building had taken some significant damage, because we could hear the wind going over our heads in the drop ceiling. Like the drop ceiling tiles were shaking and the wind was going straight over our heads from, I can't remember which direction it was going, but so we could tell that there was definitely some significant damage to the building because somehow the wind was getting in. But on the outsides of the building, There was enough rain and enough damage to the building that water was coming down the outsides of the walls and pooling a little bit from the rain. There was no rising water here. There was no storm surge in this area. This is a very high elevated area.
So Wednesday morning, the predictions are changing. What does Rusty do Wednesday morning?
Yeah, well, I wake up at 4. It's a Cat 3. By 6 o'clock, they're saying it's going to be a Cat 4. I stop over and have coffee across the way.
Shake
outside
Cafe.
of Toucan, yep.
Yeah.
And friends of mine or SWAT team members, police, they were there. The usual gang was not there. They had escaped evidently and were gone. And when we were all talking about the hurricane, it's now Cat 4, and I asked one of the officers, Larry Moss, I said, what would you do? And they said, we'd leave, but we can't. I walked out the door and said, goodbye. Started to call my wife. My friend calls me and says, we're leaving. That was going to stay with us. Called my wife, said, I'm picking up all the stuff at this TV station, and we're going to Dallas. We're out of here.
Eco Roof and Solar is Louisiana's trusted roofing leader specializing in storm restoration for commercial and residential projects, working closely with your insurance company to negotiate and fully restore your home or business. With an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, Eco Roof and Solar is Louisiana strong. Call 337-221-4113 to schedule your complimentary inspection. That's 337-221-4113 or visit us at ecoroofinsolar.com.
At Kenny Fuselier and Company, we sell the tough stuff. Hardwoods, tile, vinyl, carpet, and stone. Floors that can withstand years of kids, pets, accidents, spills. And we're much more than just durable flooring. We can complete your look with wallpaper, custom window blinds, shutters, and awnings. With thousands of choices, professional installers, and over 35 years of experience, at Kenny Fuselier, you can walk, tap, and even rollerblade on our reputation.
Do you have a brick home? Did you know that major storms can shift brick and cause unseen structural damage to your home? The easiest way to find out if this has happened to your home is to simply push on your brick and see if it moves. And if it does, call us immediately. Time is running out to file your brick claim on your home. Visit www.brickclaims.com or call us at 337-496-5131 today.
I couldn't thank the Brazier Law Firm enough for what they've done for me and my family. It took all the stress of dealing with this off of my shoulders.
I'm living in a travel trailer in my driveway, and I'm thinking if it wasn't for the Brazier Law Firm, this might be my house for the rest of my life.
They will work for you, they will fight for you, and they really take pride in their work and what they do and making sure that their client is the number one priority.
When you depend on the weather for your livelihood, one bad season can knock you off your feet. At Sunshine Quality Solutions, we understand that living in Louisiana can mean unprecedented natural disasters. And this hurricane season is no different. Whether you own a John Deere 9X, a 1023E, or even something really small, hurricanes affect us all the same. In these trying times, we hope you stay safe and know that you're not alone.
We sat up all night and watched the wind blow out of his windows that overlooked the farm. About halfway through the night, one of his front windows in his house broke. A branch hit it. And we stacked things against the door because it was a swinging door, and the air pressure coming in from the outside just kept beating that door against everything, and it told me how strong it was. Winds there only got to 100 miles an hour.
Only 100.
When
you use the phrase only 100 miles an hour, that tells you what we're dealing with.
It tells you a lot. People have told me, people in the know, that at the airport we registered 154 miles per hour sustained winds and 198 on gusts. So that only 100 is only 100 compared to 154 and 198, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
We tracked landfall as best we could on our TVs until the power went out. Our cell phone, as long as I had internet. And when the storm edge hit us, it was I'd braced myself. My brother-in-law is an engineer. He's a very intelligent gentleman. We kind of steeled ourselves to how bad it was going to be. And really nothing had prepared us for the volume of wind and rain and trees and objects that were moving that we could see through the windows. Because, you know, probably not the smartest thing we did was we'd go to the windows every once in a while, move the curtains and the shades and everything we had stacked up in front, just to see what the storm looked like. And it was cataclysmic as it came through. He had just built a brand new carport awning on the side of his residence, attached to his residence. And so over the course of the storm, we watched that seem to be systematically dismantled by the storm and blown away. We rode the entire storm out. When everything was said and done, you know, I got back in my vehicle and drove back to my residence to see what the damage was going to be, because I knew it was going to be bad. I was expecting the worst, and I think we all were during that time frame. We had a couple of kayaks and a few things that were propped up against the house that I passed on the way there that were strewn all about the neighborhood. When I got home, I was very lucky that we had sustained minimal damage. We lost a number of trees in the yard. Everything, for lack of a better word, just, you know, God's will, it all fell in the locations where it didn't strike my house or anything, our cars or anything of value. So we were very, very lucky in that aspect. And at that point, we just, you know, kicked on the generator and rode out the rest of the evening.
But it just kept getting progressively worse and worse and worse and worse until around midnight is when the power started going out. That's when metal panels on the side of the building started ripping off, and pieces of things started flying across the lot. And we could see until about midnight, we could see the lights were still on some of the buildings down the road, and so we were able to kind of see stuff going on outside. We didn't let anybody go outside after about, I think, probably 11 or 12 o'clock is the last time we let anybody go outside. But we were progressively throughout the day going out, taking pictures and filming and just looking at the wind and the rain and what it was doing. And the rain, it was never really bad, but the wind got really, really bad, and it just kept getting progressively worse and worse and worse till it really, it got, by midnight, it was getting to where it was somewhat scary out in the showroom, where it was just a wall of glass between you and the hurricane. It was pretty scary out there, and around midnight we brought everybody in to the next row of offices that had one more wall in between them. And by about 1:30, we brought everybody further back to where there was no windows. And by that time, it was the power was out everywhere. All the power lines were laying in the ground, and there was nothing you could see anyway. So there was really no sense in being out in the showroom because it was just pitch black and you could hear the wind roaring.
Okay, so Darnell, you were in one truck. And what were you in?
My Chevy Silverado, and my father was on the side of me.
Okay. And then Elliot, you were next to them.
Yeah, in another truck.
In another truck.
And a smaller truck. But you know what happened really funny? As the storm kept things flying around, it seemed to me that the vehicle was just kind of moving forward a little bit.
Inside the garage for the end part.
And so I said, well, I'm going to back this little half a little further. And I hold my foot on the brakes. I said, okay, it might help. That's what it was. Yeah.
The garage door was open.
Oh, yeah.
Both garage doors was open.
Yeah.
You didn't think to close the garage door during her?
I like to see.
Yeah, I like to see. We used the headlights to watch the debris pass.
Yeah, it's how close it was.
So you were treating this kind of like a drive-in theater then?
Yeah, watching TV.
I've never been scared to go to a drive-in, but I was scared then.
You know, it was pretty calm all the way. Let me just say that it was pretty calm when we got there about 6, 7 o'clock at night, and we started preparing for the stay. And then about 2:30 in the morning is when the eye wall hit. Now, up to that time, the wind was blowing, but you really couldn't feel it inside that building. You'd have to go outside to get a sense of the storm. But around 2:30, when that eye wall hit, you felt the building start to flex, where the windows and everything was really being moved in a sense. And at that time, the roof came off of the building. And we had water coming down the stairwells in the front, the back, and it was flooding. And we were starting to worry about the integrity of the building, if it was going to be able to stand, because every bit of that building was starting to leak. Well, we were on the interior of the building in with Baker Auditorium. about a 400 seat auditorium there. So it was on an inner wall, almost like a, you know, your tornado closet in a sense. So we were in that inner wall. And so at that point we decided to stay. We were looking outside and it was pretty bad. Things were flying off the roofs. You could see trees bending from the wind. And we wound up just waiting it out. By 6:30 that morning, things had passed, and that's when we made our way out. And when we made our way out of the building, it was still kind of dark, but you could not see the ground. That building opens up to our quad, and the quad is a beautiful part of our campus with over 50 oak trees in there, very lush and really pretty. And you couldn't see the ground from all of the debris that came off of the roof, that came off of buildings. You'd look up and you'd see windows missing, you'd see brick walls down, you'd see just things torn apart. Different parts of the trees were either down or just shredded at the top of these big oak trees. So you know, it was pretty devastating coming out to see the campus in that condition. And you knew it was going to be bad, but you just didn't know how bad it is. And all the time that you're in the building, waiting to come out and to see, you're starting to prepare yourself. Okay, what is this going to look like? What's the extent of the damage going to be? And then how do we proceed from there? Because the reason to stay was to be able to begin immediately on the recovery process. Now that this has happened, how do we recover? So it took about 30 minutes to kind of just take it in when you walked out there and you saw the devastation. And if this part of campus looked like this, what did the other parts of campus look like?
Tell me how the day unfolds, traffic fast or traffic slow, the feeling is so fine, I gotta say. You're everywhere, got you everywhere, everywhere I roam. You're everywhere, got you everywhere, everywhere I go, everywhere I go.
Unfortunately, Louisiana will at some point experience another hurricane, and it's important to obtain flood insurance. Remember, homeowners or renters insurance policies will not cover flood damage from a hurricane.
Obtaining or maintaining flood insurance is an essential part of personal preparedness. It ensures you can recover quickly after a hurricane or flood. For more information, visit floodsmart.gov.
You can search for an agent on our Louisiana Department of Insurance website.
On part 2, we'll examine stories of Lake Charles as it awoke after the destruction on Through the Storms.
The sheer terror of what was going on, I really didn't think there's a couple points that we weren't going to make it through this.
We sat up all night and we noticed a lot of roof damage, peeled off roofs completely.
Then you start going looking around campus and it just was like a war zone.
Heartbreaking, devastating, and just unbelievable.
And the closer we got, it was just like somebody dropped a bomb in the middle of the city.